Hi, Sai Kiran. I have a doubt regarding the OPP1. Can I ask now?
No, maybe we'll start at 205. You can ask then.
Just
Or if it is
is
personal, maybe you can message me. Currently, it will be streaming.
okay then. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, welcome everybody to the session. Professor has joined the session, so we can start ahead. Any queries on week 8 content or week 7 content? We can have a discussion around them on business use cases or theoretical level. Yeah.
One request, sir. I forgot to submit the week 7 form.
Okay.
But the dates for the recording and the commits would match before the deadline.
Yeah, you can mail them. We'll look through it. Okay.
Okay, thanks. Should I mail the recording and the Git link to you, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Tripto.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. The thing is, I had submitted a little less assignments this term. So I submitted about 3 assignments and I missed out on the rest.
Okay.
Would I be eligible for QB2 and enter? Yes.
I'm not totally aware of eligibility side. Maybe could you write a mail to the ops team? Maybe you can keep me on CC.
Okay.
Hi, I have also similar question related to that. I think one or two assignment I submitted after the recording was done after 12. Okay, I submitted it. Will you consider that those submission?
No, no. If the Google Form submission is successful, everything will be considered, not an issue.
Okay, thanks.
Hello, sir. I have a question with respect to data poisoning. In
Yeah,
the
sure.
week's content, we were manually corrupting the data and then checking the results, right? But how does it happen in business? Like, do they check the quality of the data by any means, or do they do this at every time when the data gets updated, or how does it happen in the business?
No, you're asking about data quality at the point of sourcing the data, right? Or before
Yeah.
the models are updated.
No, what we saw is how data quality is impacting the model performance. That's all we saw, right? So, but how do they ensure that, at the sourcing, as you said, how do they
See,
ensure that it is
yeah,
of good quality?
see, it depends on the nature of the business. So let's say, for instance, it's a large enterprise, like one of the big banks or telecom or financial services or health or whatever. In a large enterprise, the teams which are responsible for sourcing are usually separate from the teams which are doing the model building. So what ends up happening is the sourcing teams will create some kind of a data lake or a data estate where they bring the data together. At that time itself, they establish that the source data is matching the data that's actually produced in this data lake and populated in the data lake. And that's the minimum set of quality, quality guarantees, you can think of it that way, that they provide. And then additionally, when further processing happens on that data, let's say, for instance, business wants to build a data mart or a reporting dashboarding layer or something like that, then they start to attach meaning to it. And when that happens, there are additional quality checks, especially semantical quality checks that happen on top of it. So that's why they, for instance, establish that this column is supposed to mean this. The values in this column do not match that meaning. So why is that the case? Right? So those kinds of quality checks happen. And then, last but not the least, when the modeling happens, when let's say analytics teams start to work on building their own models, then data preparation takes on a different meaning. And according to that, there will be additional quality checks with respect to whether there are interdependencies between these columns which I need to know about so that my model can be chosen appropriately. Like those kinds of quality checks happen there. So it happens in progression in a large enterprise. In a smaller startup, usually there is just one team that does all of this, in which case they typically tend to defer the quality assessments until absolutely required. I mean, not because they want it that way, it's only because they are running short of resources or time or both.
Okay. Also, we are seeing that poor quality data, it is giving very less accuracy or performance metrics, right? So, if the modeling team happens to see such poor performance, do they report back to the data sourcing team? Do they suspect anything wrong with the data?
In practice, I think they know less about whether the sourcing has happened correctly. And most cases, they operate in a vacuum. They don't actually talk to each other at all. Ideally, that's not the case at all. Well, ideally, you would think that they're part of the same company, so they will talk to each other quite frequently, but they don't. And because they operate in a vacuum, they don't even, in many cases, understand that there could be a quality issue in the first place. But it comes down to how the organization is laid out. Like for instance, in let's say it's a large company that provides a product or a service for end consumers, there'll be a product manager or a service manager who's responsible for the overall quality and hygiene and performance of that particular product. Let's say, for instance, Netflix's video recommendation engine, right? As an example. Then that product manager will notice these patterns and they will try to put two and two together and say, hey, maybe the data that you've actually taken up is not correctly sourced, and then they'll bring the teams together. Usually it comes down to the product manager.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, if I may add to that. So a couple of other things that I've also noticed and have been part of is essentially validation of the data or checking the quality of data at every stage. So even though the teams may be different, the expectation is that the data science teams, when they get the data, they actually do the quality checks. And one of the things that I found very useful is hard business metrics. I mean, data may be from any source, but if you're able to tie them back to hard business metrics initially, I mean, simple thing like, let's say if it's a retail scenario, you're getting transaction data, which is what you're using for modeling purchase behaviors and all. But you could have very basic checks like what is the total revenue or certain business metrics, and then verify them or compare them with your existing dashboards or otherwise. That gives you some confidence on the source data itself. So that's one thing that I've noticed, which a lot of organizations actually do. I mean, it seems like there is no real substitute for hardcore business metrics. Those are probably the best way to at least do one level of validation.
Sir, with follow up this question, that suppose we are not getting adequate, like as desired outcome. So at what point do you decide that we need to change the model? Like, is there any benchmarking that internally be done?
Could you repeat the first part of the question? What is not decided?
No, like suppose we are not getting the desired result, like the maybe the model is not performing as per the desired level. So when you decide to, like, yes, we need to discard this model, and maybe you come up with, like, maybe you are using XGBoost. Maybe you think like, okay, maybe XGBoost is not performing well. Maybe we need to try some other model. So at what stage we take this call?
Uh, okay, so at some point in the exploratory data analysis stage itself, you should firstly have a reasonable understanding about the relationship between the data parameters. Um that comes from obviously the understanding of the business first, and then also the nature of the data that you have at your disposal. Now, the relationship matters because ultimately data science is about uh, backfitting a representation or a formulation or mathematical formulation between the independent and the dependent data, right? So for instance, in your analysis and in your understanding of the business, you realize that a simple linear formulation would suffice, then your model selections will basically be revolving around various types of linear models. So, or otherwise, on the other end of the spectrum, if you feel that there is no easy relationship that can be, used to, backfit the data into, then you might choose to go for a really complex deep learning network, as an example, right? That's the other end of the spectrum. So that's the first step where you would arrive at a narrowing down of the class of models that can be potentially used for this problem statement. And then once the actual data preparation happens and you understand the relationships between the variables, like how many variables are independent truly, how many of them have correlations which are, mild correlations to major correlations, etc. That will further inform your model selection. And then the actual model selection itself will result in some model performance, obviously. But then you've got to, explore, samples of all the different models which are potentially suitable for that particular problem statement, for that particular formulation. So even, for instance, if you take a linear example, linear regression is of course what you can use, but you should also try to use other linear models that you have at your disposal and explore all of them and then choose the best. The good part is most data science libraries nowadays, including scikit-learn, they have automated model selection mechanisms, which also do a little bit of automated data preparation. So you don't need to really do you know, the groundwork yourself. You can actually ask it to do it, but you need to obviously give it the clean quality prepared data. So that I think, I would say that sums up the basic approach to model selection, but there are more nuances based on what you see as a result. If the result has too many false positives or too many false negatives, then you will tweak appropriately, etc. But those are tactics that you can use once you know a bit more about the problem statement and the result values.
So, sir, in case the data all of a sudden data start changing, like suppose the relations was between the suppose this example that during COVID there's a data was relation was a different way, and right now the data is having a different relationship. So like data already model is in production. So in this kind of scenario, what should we do? Like we again revisit the entire analysis, entire understanding of the data, then
Yeah,
we
yeah,
again
correct. Absolutely correct. Because sorry, is the week on model drift, has that week already been, released to you as content? I think it's
That is week 9, I guess.
week
Yes,
nine.
sir. It's
So that discusses this problem statement at length. So you can refer to that because there are different types of drifts that can happen. The model drifting is one thing, but the baseline itself could drift, meaning the problem statement itself can drift. And that's just the nature of most real world businesses. And based on what type of drift it is, or rather, in practice, what you would end up doing is you would rule out what type of drift it cannot be by testing out all those different scenarios. And in the week 9 lectures, I would have given you some useful tools, both statistical tools as well as EDA tools that you can use to explore whether a particular type of drift is happening. And you can use those and determine what drift is happening, and accordingly the correction has to happen. If there is no change to the nature of the problem statement and all that's changing is just the model itself because the data variables are slightly getting adjusted, then maybe you just need to retrain the model. Otherwise you might have to explore from the beginning.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. I have two questions. Uh, One is regarding a doubt which I'm struggling with the CI/CD pipelines in the assignments and in general also. So the way I go about it is I do implement whatever is demonstrated and then go out to build the CI/CD pipeline. but many times I do face errors after I've written the CI/CD code. And I think fairly for our assignments, it's not very complex compared to the industry, where there may be a huge CI/CD pipeline code written. So, what is the expectation? How much time should we spend on writing the CI/CD, and how complex should it be, so that I can understand how much effort I can put on it, and how is the process basically? How do they? At what point do they build the CI/CD? Like the GitHub Actions workflow in particular is what I'm referring to. The workflow file. That's one question. And the second question was regarding the previous discussion on the model itself, uh, about AutoML. Where can we use AutoML in this process of uh, quickly adapting to the model changes and data drifts? So these are my two questions.
The second question is easy to answer. Let me take a stab at that first. AutoML is great at automatically selecting a model given a set of model space, or given a set of model candidates, right? So you can use it in situations where the problem statement itself is not having drift per se. It's only the model that's changing or the data that's changing slightly. In which case, you can use AutoML, and almost all cases, assuming the data is good quality, AutoML will do the job of a junior data scientist pretty well. Um, then coming to your first question, see, I think what happens in industries is something I can share, and what Sai has as expectations for the course he can share next. See, in industry, the CI/CD pipelines are usually built once, and very rarely are the pipelines themselves changed, right? The reason being, you want to have sanctity to what pipelines are generating artifacts which are meant for production usage. Because without that sanctity, if that keeps changing all the time, like regular development code, then it ends up having pretty hard. It ends up being pretty hard to guarantee that this is the provenance, this is the lineage, this is why this particular artifact made its way into production, etc. So uh, even there, I think you really have to be nuanced about CI versus CD. CD pipelines very rarely change, right? In fact, for a project or an entire platform, CD typically gets built once, and as and when new modules are built, the way the CD pipelines are designed, it's designed in a way that it's modular, meaning that let's say that there's a new component that's gone live in a particular platform, or let's say you built a model and the model is now doing recommendations. Earlier, it used to be rule based. Then the fact that it's recommendation model that needs to go live does not change the rest of the software. So the CD pipeline will not need to change. Additionally, you'll just add another module that says that, look, just deploy this particular model as an API, right? So the CD pipeline change itself is minimal. You might add new things to it every now and then when the component is ready for production usage. CI, on the other side, will also not change as frequently as the developer code, but obviously will go hand in hand with the level of testing that you need to see as components get integrated into the base platform. So here again, the goal is to build the skeleton once and not change it. Like in this case, GitHub Actions, right? The fact that you use GitHub Actions, the fact that you use certain automation workflows to get validation reports, to get pull requests automatically sent for code review, etc. All of that is just done once, right? And you don't need to touch it again and again. Even the automation of the testing, right, is something that's just done once. Now, as and when components change, obviously you've got to go revisit the tests that are dependent on that, and revisit it in two ways. One, of course, you're adding new tests, in which case you might need to add new types of automation if the CI is not already handling it, or if the CI is already modular, you might just need to add test files and not really CI code itself, because the CI code can automatically pick up all the test files that are there within. In most modern testing frameworks like like Python testing, like py test, or Java testing, like JUnit test, etc., are all test file based or test cases based. So if you add new test cases, it doesn't really change the test framework per se. So in those cases, the CI itself, the code does not change. You're just adding new test cases. But in other scenarios, you might change the functionality, in which case you have to go revisit whether the tests that have been written, are they valid? In which case, can they be used for regression? Or if they're not valid, you'll have to go change, in which case it changes the pipeline. Sai, you can elaborate on what you're expecting for this assignments in the course.
No, I think whatever Harshvardhan currently applying is almost similar, right? Like we might start with the functionality first, given that there is no established CI, and amount of time it's more depends on your again, like even if you go for more of a industry scenarios, if you're a data scientist that have built a module that is requiring to you want to containerize that and deploy it, they also go through variations of the plugins. They might need to make sure that all the packages are comfortable to work with. That phase will be there. There might be errors in between, but again, it's more of like you need to set these things up. Once the plugins etc are appropriate for automatic building this particular image, then yeah, you can kind of the CD will happen along, and there is no particular time limit as such. Key, okay, you might take 1 hour. It depends on your proficiency in that particular domain. In a way, if you are pretty much good with debugging the Linux based kernel issues or any package dependency issues, then it would be easier for you. That's it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So
Yes. So, sir, I wanted to ask that the CI/CD pipelines, like, what is the standard way to trigger these pipelines? Is only the push to the repo or a pull request or a merge is there, or are there any other methods in order to trigger those pipelines, like training, finishing of training, etc.?
No, you're asking in general or specific to GitHub Actions?
Specific to like GitHub Actions.
Okay, I'm not a GitHub Actions expert myself. Maybe the documentation can help you out. But what I would think is reasonable would be every time you check in new code, um, check in meaning if you follow the Git flow approach, you want to commit it to the branch that you're developing on first, in which case it's just private to you. At that time, you do a regression of all the testing that's already been checked in so that you know for sure nothing's failing. And then when that gets pulled into the main or the developed branch, at that time there should also be a full CI along with executing the tests that you have written in that particular branch. So that would be a reasonable trade-off between testing frequently versus testing all the time.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Got it. Thank you.
Vaibhav.
Yeah, hi. So regarding the grade assignment, for the poisoning attack, the mitigation part, do we need to just explain it, what kind of mitigation can be taken, or do we also need to code it, like maybe some slicing the features or some maybe like outlier removal, something like that? Is it like just a theoretical part, or we also need to do a coding and then explain
No,
how it is?
theoretical explanation or you exploring how does the industry mitigate at this point, that works.
Uh, okay. And for the poisoning part, do we need to also show it in the CI/CD pipelines? Do we need to run it on the GitHub Actions, or is it fine if we just do it on the workbench and show it in the MLflow UI dashboard,
Yeah,
or
if
using the
it's
graphs?
fine if you can show it independently. It is also fine if you can try integrate into CI. Both works.
Okay, understood. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I mean, since there have been no questions on the OPP itself, I'm assuming people are okay with it. They found it on par with what they expected. Is that a fair assessment? Okay, good.
I have a question, sir. Not question. I have a comment about the OPCD. The assessment was okay, but video expectation and clear explanation of what we have done. This seems to take some time. I don't know why 3 hours was not sufficient, even though nothing went wrong, but somehow 3 hours was not sufficient in completing the assessment. So at the end of 3 hours, even though they gave an extra half an hour for recording and all, somehow I feel that was not fitting into the time provided. Maybe if we can find some other way to avoid that, that would be helpful. Avoid the video submission and again uploading that video, recording video, uploading it to Drive and checking all the necessary permissions, getting those links, pasting it to the form. So it is somewhat time consuming and it is being done in a hastily. So that's the challenge I faced actually.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest issue was the CI pipeline. I spent at least 45 minutes to 50 minutes debugging the YAML file. It just would not run. Finally, I got it to run, but it was just in the nick of time. And then,
For
of course, the
me,
video, etc., had to speed up significantly just to get it going.
mm, for me also, I don't know, like the assignment, I was able to run the pipeline in all the assignment, but I don't know what happened. Like in the examination, this pipeline was not running out. I don't know something, but yeah, I expected like in the exams things may go wrong. But yeah, that was the thing which I was not able to do it. I wrote the whole pipeline, but something was going wrong. It's fine.
So in
I
those, sorry, just on these two specific feedback, Anupam and Vaibhav, did you try to use the AI tools for debugging or troubleshooting? Were they helpful?
Yeah, I tried, but it was like a continuous loop. They were giving something, I'm trying, but
Find
still
that
nothing.
you
It's a
cannot
continuous
rely
loop. Yeah, I just feel like whenever I go with AI tools, yeah, it just helps sometime, but there are some times where it keeps on giving me something I'm putting, then it's like a continuous loop, it's like a never ending thing. But in the end, I was like, fine, let's leave it. Anyways, I have explained it in the video, what I have done in the pipeline, but it didn't run it completely, but it's fine. Okay.
Actually, there's one
so
more
the
thing that, like, if we implement any change, then also we have to wait for the whole pipeline to run. Like, if our last part is getting some error, so we have to wait for the whole CI pipeline to run. So it takes a few minutes to know that whether our code is right or wrong. So it consumes extra time over there.
No, actually, if you kind of separate every step as an independent one, you can only run that step. If it is all included in one step, yeah, you need to wait till the line of execution goes to that particular end.
And there is an option to disable the workflow also manually from the GitHub
Yeah,
UI. So when
you
you
can
are doing
rerun all.
some when we are doing some normal commit, like at the last, I was just uploading the output screenshots and I was updating the README file. So that time I disabled the workflow and made it not to trigger. So if you want, you can explore that.
I also feel like this is the first time where, not the first, but one of the times, a few times where we had to implement the entire contents of all the weeks together. So I think in the previous courses in foundation or somewhere we had a mock quiz before the actual quiz or the OPP. I'm not sure if for OPP it was there, but uh, if we could have something like that just to be prepared for the end-to-end bit of this pipeline implementation. Just a feedback or a like suggestion which could probably help me
Huh.
personally.
No, we said that, no? Even in the OPP preparation session and that part of the video, we said that why don't you take the iris data set and run all the assignments together in one flow and try it out. That would have been the mock that would have prepared you for this.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, a mock question was also released, but it was just one night before the exam. Releasing it maybe at least 2 days in advance could have been much useful.
Sure. We'll take into consideration. At least for OP2, we'll release it sooner.
Just to add regarding the timings, I remember my big data OPP. So I used AI at the last moment on big data and failed to complete the task. But here didn't write a single line of code myself, but it took me complete 3 hours to complete the pipeline.
Good. You've tried both ends of the spectrum. So I think now you have to find the ideal middle spot.
But the uh, AI part is what that's optimal in terms of time.
Yeah, I'm joking. Sorry, I didn't know what you have done specifically, but I think the use of AI is both a boon and a bane, right? And I think there's some similar feedback. I think the big data course OPP students were also giving. If you know what to do and you're struggling for the right syntax, or if you're struggling for help on troubleshooting something specific, and I think the AI tools work very well. But if you don't know what to do, or if you don't know how to even make progress on a particular topic, then it can be that it leads you down a rabbit hole where you're chasing different things. And sometimes, of course, for operational matters, AI tools are not great because they're indexed on documentation which is dated. So you might not have the latest documentation available for you to search through. That becomes a challenge. Yeah, okay. So these are operational learnings from using the tools.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's good feedback. Thank you. Any other questions for week 8 or even the week 9 content?
Well, in week 8, we got the ML SecOps part. So there we got an overview of what can go wrong or what attacks can happen while making the pipeline. So I'm just curious, like what issues like in real world people are facing in this current scenario where cyber attacks are much more prevalent apart from what was taught there.
Yeah, many examples are there. I don't know whether you've been following there's a article that Anthropic released, or a blog post that Anthropic did 2 days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, on how there was a very large scale cyber attack launched by AI agents against not models alone, but even LLMs and entire infrastructure. It was very interesting. You should go read up about it. It's not directly related to specific ML models. It's more related to broader software systems. But the use of AI for it is quite interesting. Yeah, coming to your question, I think there are many, examples of this, and it happens all the time, much more than what the media understands and portrays, and much more than what Aam Janata like us are aware of. In most cases, it's just swept under the carpet, or it's discussed in expert forums, which we don't have access to as public. That's as much as I can say. But if you're looking for specific examples, I mean, you can look up many by just Googling for it, what's happened in the last 6 months. There are many examples.
Okay, so like if we get a position of MLOps engineer in any company, so apart from making pipeline, it will be our job also to secure the pipeline, right?
It depends on the company. If it's a startup, most likely yes. If it's a big enterprise, it's quite likely they will have a separate information security team, or in some cases, it will be part of the IT team, which is responsible for security. But even with large companies, even in large companies, there would be these kinds of areas which are, requiring cross collaboration, meaning that as an MLOps engineer, you could be part of the DevOps team or the cloud team or the ML team. But if InfoSec is separate, there might be an expectation that you guys work together and address security issues as it pertains to ML models, because most IT team members who are working on security are not really trained on ML at all. Whereas it's easier for you guys who are ML trained to go back down the stack and work on security.
Yes, that's the same thing I also felt like most of the people are still trained on cybersecurity and that part. And most people don't even know how ML models work and how attacks can happen in those parts. So I was also thinking like if MLOps engineer is doing the same security part also. So thank you for that.
Yeah, in fact, I feel that ML SecOps can be like one dedicated job profile very soon. It's that hot a topic. Even within MLOps, I'm saying you might have, job openings coming up saying ML SecOps engineer required, right? Today it doesn't say it as much, but that will happen very soon.
So it would be better if we can integrate the security part in our skill set also, so we can have better opportunities.
Yeah. We'll discuss some more about security, especially as it pertains to LLMs in week 12, I think. Yeah. So just we look for it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Not just SecOps, right? Any other operations, pattern recognition becomes a very crucial component. Let's say I'm in a bank and I want to figure out if something is going up or going down or anything like that. I think the pattern recognition component has been there as part of at least bank operations for a very long time. I mean, from a software perspective also.
True.
Any more questions? Okay, just an update on OP scores will be released by Monday. Will be handed over to ops team by tomorrow or today, end of the day. So I think you can you guys have a look at it on Monday. Yeah.
Is there a way where we can see the scores without operations in between? I mean, they have not even released week 5 and 6 graded assignment scores. So they either they have their hands full because there are other OPPs going on, or there might be some system issues. So
Not at this point. Maybe I'll check with ops team. Maybe can we directly upload to Looker Studio? I think that you guys have access to, right?
yeah, please, that would be really helpful.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.